Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Brooklyn-based jazz woodwind player Brian Landrus on his new 2020 CD, For Now, with Fred Hersch, Gress and Billy Hart. He opened up about this new material released during a pandemic and this strange new COVID-19 world that we are all living in. Enjoy. How are you holding up?
Good. Oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's craziness.
Man, isn't it?
Yeah. Wild time.
Where exactly are you located right now?
Brooklyn.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Which, right, of all places on the planet, that's probably one of the most intense places.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a strange time, you know. It's I don't know how it is for you there, but it's walking around. People give each other the side eye. Everyone's like skeptical, and it's weird. It's just a weird time, but it's okay. It's okay. We're all getting through it.
Yeah, I guess that's my biggest rub. You know, here in Kansas City, it's a little different because we have a little bit more latitude to kind of move around and to do some things. But I've noticed in public, you know, when we go into stores, we're wearing masks, and then there's some that don't, and people are looking at each other. I think that's the thing that's strange, is that America already had a lot of things that we socially needed to work through. So
right,
to get to a point now where we've reverted everything that we've been told is positive about human behavior in about a month and a half, and then to magnify things that are already odd is going to be strange. Because to me, at one point in Kansas City, they had mentioned that, you know, people were calling police on each other. And I was like, you know, there's a lot of things that I can take to get rid of this virus and a pandemic, but when we start snitching on each other, that's a definite line in the sand that needs to just not happen.
Right. I know, and it's a strange thing because, you know, here it's like that, where some people are really kind of, you can tell there's an aggressive vibe about, you know, I mean, I'm always wearing a mask walking around here, but it's, you know, sometimes there's things, people say things to people that aren't. It's like, oh man, it just feels so heated. And some people are really, I mean, since this is the epicenter, really in the U.S., it's maybe the world right now. You know, these idiots had a party the other day with, I guess last weekend, and there must have been 30 people, you know, looking out the window of my apartment. You know, it's like they had this down on this patio. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of mixed opinions about it, but that just seems rather careless given the situation.
Oh, I think there's definite lines. I mean, if you're somebody that needs to get out of your house and you're equipped with face masks or whatever, or you're even outside and you don't necessarily have one on yet, I think there's a level of forgiveness and people need to let live. But yeah, gatherings, that's just been absolutely proven that there's a risk in that. And one of the reasons why I'm reaching out, there's a lot of reasons, but I think it's really good to talk about music. And man, you have quite a stellar lineup and a beautiful recording that just came out on For Now. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this recording. So I guess this is a two-part question about this recording. You know, you have Fred Hersch, you have Gress and Billy Hart, a power lineup. Talk to me about what kind of fun it was to make this, and then what it's like to release something during a global pandemic, because it has to be bittersweet. You know, you have this wonderful recording with people that have the latitude at home to listen to music, but there's no live performances to back it up.
Right. Yeah. You know, well, to your first question, when I was putting this together, the first person I was talking to was Fred, and I'd been telling Fred that I wanted to do something with him for a couple years, and it's so rare that he's a sideman on things, and so he basically said, you know, he'd love to be a part of it, but he wants to know the music we're playing beforehand. He wants to know the bands that I want to use and all that stuff, which I completely understand. And so Billy Hart's been a really good friend of mine and mentor for, I guess, 15 years now, and been on the last 4 or 5 records of mine. And we've worked together a bunch in the city. And so I told him, you know, would you be cool with Billy? And he was like, oh, yeah, of course. I love playing with Billy. And then I knew that they had a trio together with Drew. And so I had worked with Drew, but it was as a sideman of a big band 5 years ago or something like that. So I reached out to him and asked if Drew wanted to do it. And he said, I'm in. And so Fred at that point said, yeah, great. The band sounds good. And then Mike Rodriguez, he was thrilled. And then all the string players, he had actually worked with a lot of the players and toured with some of them before. So it's a small tight-knit circle here. Even though New York's huge, there's a lot of musicians where we just travel in the same circle. So everyone kind of knew each other. So there was almost like a family aspect of it, which is really beautiful and just exciting and peaceful when you go in the studio. You don't have to any of the attitude necessarily. So then I started writing the music, and Fred's, I always have a habit that I got from Bob Brookmeyer, where he told me, he always books the studio dates before he writes the music, and that's highly motivating to write the music. So I always think of Bob, and I do that. So I booked the date before I had the music written. So then Fred said, yeah, I'm in, but I want to hear the music before. And I said, well, okay, I'm writing it right now. And he said, okay, well, get it to me when you can. So I sent it out to him in rough drafts, and he dug it and said, that's great, let's do it. And then, I did all the string arrangements and then sent them to my buddy, Bob Aldridge. And he did his thing. He worked on them more, and then we collaborated on them. So then when we went into the studio, it ran very smooth. We did all the string tracks in one day, and we did all the stuff with the quartet and quintet the other day. So it ran very smooth, and everyone was comfortable with the music before we went in. And a lot of the stuff is originals. It's pretty arranged, but I did it where there was enough room for everyone to stretch as well. And that's something I've just learned from working with these artists. Someone like Billy, for instance, is such a creative human that he always puts a different spin on things every take. So every take you do, it's a little different. And so it's important working with him to give him the freedom to be able to do that and explore the textures. He did that wonderfully. And then the next part of your question, which is, it is very bittersweet, where we had a couple nights at Dizzy's booked, and it took a long time to make everything happen and coordinate everyone's schedule, and then this happened where everything's canceled. So then it comes out, and we don't have a release concert, which I've never done before. It's a strange thing to put out a record and not have any tour support. It's strange, but maybe the other side of it is people are at home and they will have more time to dig into the music and enjoy it. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case. And with everything going on, we don't know how long this is going to go. So that was one of the big things when I was talking to the band members and booking agents and Ann, my publicist, where should we push the date back? And everyone just agreed, no, let's just put it out because we don't know how long this is going to go on, and let's just release it. It's beautiful, and hopefully it'll take some people on a journey right now when everyone needs it.
And it's been actually, from my perspective, refreshing to continue to see CDs come in my mailbox and to listen to music and that life goes on. I think there's an inherent positive mental health that goes into the fact that everything isn't grinding to a halt, I mean, there's got to be spokes of life. We're humans, and we want to feel like we can live our lives, and these moments, I think, are exemplary, and I think it's great that you guys are doing this. So, the other thing about this, too, is what have you been doing since, we've been in quarantine for a month and a half. It's been a sizable chunk of time. What kinds of things creatively have you been doing to keep your spirits up?
I've been working on a lot of aspects of my playing that I've needed to focus on that I guess I just hadn't had the time to really dissect. So it's been good for me to just be able to work on one thing at a time, and really I'm really fastidious with my practicing, and I keep journals and logs of different stuff, and so I've just been trying to keep track of all the stuff that that I know I need to work on to progress as an artist. And I will say it's challenging here because I have neighbors. I'm in a big building, and I have essentially a little practice room that I go in, but I'm playing a baritone saxophone, which is a pretty loud instrument, and if you're practicing it right, it's pretty loud. So it makes it a little. It's always been. I'm always aware that I don't want to anger people, and usually when I'm practicing, I know a lot of the people are gone at work, and I don't have to worry about irritating people. So I'll throw in standard and once in a while or two, at least something that people can grab onto instead of just tone exercises and rhythmic exercises and things that are not exactly fun to listen to. So it's been strange because I feel like I'm really balancing that line of working on my artistry, but I don't want to be selfish and be rude to the community that has to hear this practicing. And luckily my neighbors are very nice. They're very cool and everyone's supportive, but I'm realistic that I'm not going to be practicing funk lines on my bass sax and all day. So it's a strange time, but I've been practicing a lot of flutes that are much more quiet, and bass flute and alto flute and things that are something that I can really work on without irritating everyone around. And that's one of the things about working at the university is that I always love going in and just being able to go into a practice room and just play as loud as I want, not worry about what people are, if I'm disturbing somebody watching a movie or whatever's going on, reading a book, So it's just been a good time for me to dissect things and try to really work on all these aspects that I need to improve on that I've neglected. So it's trying to make the most of it, but I have not been composing much at all, but that's always kind of my pattern. When I get done with an album, I need to kind of let the inspiration just kind of build up again. It takes some time.
The one thing I've heard from a lot of musicians is impromptu playing, outdoors, just outside of their place, and people have been really embracing those kinds of moments, which has been kind of cool. And I actually talked to a bass player in Kansas City that did it in a cul-de-sac, and the neighbors came out and they just cheered crazily afterwards, and he said he hadn't felt that satisfied after a live performance in years.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful. So, that's really nice to hear. I'm happy to hear that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, for me, it's a strange idea where I know a lot of people have been putting on, live concerts and things online, and I maybe I should do that. And some people have been telling me I should do that. I haven't yet, and part of it is just it's felt, there's so much other stuff going on in the world. I know some people it's been very successful and they love doing that, and it's fun. For me, it's felt a little, I guess, arrogant, so I haven't wanted to do that. But I know that I have some friends out here that have told me the same thing, where they've gone out on street corners and played, and it's been really a beautiful experience. So that's wonderful to hear, and anything that takes people out of what's happening right now is beautiful.
Absolutely. The one thing that I've thought about, and I've heard from a lot of different musicians, is a lot of innovation in jazz has been brought about through strife. Love Supreme and a lot of really great albums came out of a time of high racism and post-war and all of those kinds of things. And I think about the jazz group collectively, and most of the jazz musicians in the world do it for the love of the music. They're not in this. This isn't a music format that makes a lot of money. So no matter what happens, there's always innovation. There's always going to be things that are going to come through. What are your thoughts on the recovery of the jazz world coming out of this? I know it's ambiguous. We don't have timelines, but just in general, your general feeling.
Well, I like you said, none of us, well, I don't want to say none, but I think 99% of the musicians are in this out of the love of the art and pushing it forward. And I think that's going to continue, and I think we're going to see probably the strongest scene that we've ever seen. I really hope. It's very possible, because I know now people are really going to be grateful for having the community. And I know that for me, one of the things that's really been surprising to me, I mean, I love playing out. It's one of my favorite things, and I love playing in jam sessions, and that's one of the best ways to reconnect and connect with all my friends and just see the community. But this made me realize how precious that is, and I hope to think that it's going to bring everyone together even more. And when everything lifts, I believe that there's going to be some really amazing music coming out, because this is I've seen some people that are the financial reality of the situation is devastating, and I think that's going to be very hard, because I know a lot of people that were making the majority of their income off of live performance, whether it's weddings, whether it's clubs and Broadway and a mix of all sorts of stuff. And I don't know how long that's going to take to come back, but I think artistically we're all going to get through this. And if we can put this into a positive direction, which I do believe we will, then it's going to be very strong and uniting. And like I said, I think the jam sessions, I think, are going to be some of the most exciting things that have happened in a long time in the jazz world. And we're going to see a lot of groups of musicians getting together that have never worked together out of curiosity and just the hunger for what's going to happen. And this could be the music world in general. So I think it's going to be a really exciting time for art. It's the hard part is a lot of my friends, like I said, is just getting through this and weathering the storm and making sure that they can pay bills and pay rent. And that's really been hard to see. And like I said, a lot of my friends that are really successful touring artists, it's done, and it's terrifying. I know I myself have had concerts canceled all through till December, which is just shocking. But that's a reality, and we'll figure it out. But that's, like you said, I do think that some of the strongest art comes out of the most difficult times. And I know for me, that's certainly been the case on everything that I've created, where I've always tried to pull from the depths of despair, really. And even this record for now, there's a lot of heartbreak and strife that came into this. That was the inspiration for a lot of the music, and that's how we celebrate life, is by putting this into sound and transferring that energy that's possibly negative into something beautiful. And I think that's going to just continue to happen on an epic scale.
The one thing I think we all probably need at this point is some level of good news, and I think that's been one of the nice functions of doing these interviews, is that I did talk to somebody from Norway over the weekend, and they were going to have kindergartners start school, of course with social distancing and a lot of extra measures, which just blew my mind that was even conceived. And he said by summertime they were going to start having concerts of 500 people or less. So,
wow.
I know that we're in the mentality in America here where we got to be very, very, very careful, and I get that. But when you start hearing other places around the world that have gone through this pandemic on the same timetable as us, getting these hopeful, stories, I think that's a really good thing for us to hear, our human psyche to ingest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is really good to hear. So hopefully it'll follow that trajectory, and that'll be wonderful.
Well, but I think, too, I did talk to a Kansas City musician last night that's been doing a lot of live streams, and there's been a handful of people that have been doing live streams. And I think that's the thing about all of this, is about adaptability. Like, for instance, if they do get back into baseball, they're talking about this new division of just 3 divisions with American National League, consolidated into certain parks with different innings and different things. To me, and without many fans, to me, as weird as it sounds, there's going to be things that are going to save us. Obviously, during this dark time, art's going to save us. And hopefully, along with all the first responders, we start recognizing sectors of the workforce that are doing things that usually get taken advantage of or usually aren't seen as key and essential. Because you figure if you have a surgeon that's working on somebody, if they don't have music in there, that's going to alter the way that they function. And when you put music in that equation, it's going to just wash over everybody in a better way. I think that's just as medicinal as anything a prescription pill company can put out there. And I think that, at the end of the day, we need to recognize these things that are essential in our society. And I think music is a part of that.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's certainly right.
And I hope that maybe these places like Spotify that say they're finally putting more money aside for streams decide that they should do that all the time, because the amount of money that musicians get is meager, and I guess that's my next question to you. I mean, it seems rhetorical for me to ask this, but I'm going to ask, what can the fans do to support the jazz community collectively during this time?
Probably the best way the fans can support the musicians is probably going to their actual websites and getting merchandise off of them, because really the streaming is great for certain things, but for monetary gain, it's pretty much impossible to make any money on these things. And you could really support a lot of artists by going and buying CDs directly from their websites. I have a lot of friends that have been putting up T-shirts and stickers and hats and all sorts of things like that. Online lessons is another thing for. There's so many people that listen to jazz that are musicians themselves, and really it's a time where you can reach out to your favorite artists and get lessons from them, and that's very rewarding for the participant as well. And those are the things I think you can do the most of, because it's such a desperate time. And also, the thing about music that is fascinating when I'm teaching a lot of college students is that a lot of people have lost the idea of how important liner notes for an album are, and that's something that, even though I know CDs are outdated in some ways, I still think they're precious for the sheer reason of getting them and looking to what the musicians have to say and who's on it, where they recorded it, and a lot of things like that make that format still very relevant to me. And I know there's a lot of people that are pressing vinyl again. Same thing. It's really there's something really important about that for me. When I think back to Love Supreme, for instance, since you said that album, reading the liner notes was very important in my life, and reading liner notes to a lot of these albums are great. So I would just say, it's now really a lot of the majority of the musicians have either their own website selling the stuff, or you can find the label, but really labels are dying. So, I would definitely recommend go to your favorite artist websites and just buy a couple things of merchandise. They're great gifts for people, and that's helping out a lot of musicians right now, because this is obviously a problem that was happening before this pandemic, which is streaming. And when I'm teaching the music business class, it's something that's just no one has a solution for. We all depend on it now, whether you're a listener or an artist. But I don't know how to get around it. I don't see that changing. But the revenue involved is it's astonishing. Most people don't realize that each play on Spotify pays, I think it's 0.00003 cents. So, which is just incredible. I mean, the amount of plays, even with 1 million plays, it doesn't pay hardly anything. So that's something that this has brought to light, which I hope, as you said, Spotify will change that. But I'm not sure. They certainly have been making a ton of money for the last couple of years, and they're not distributing that to the artists. So I hope that changes, but I'm not sure if it will.
So my final question to you is this: we all are going to get back to the live music, and when we do, what revelations or realizations do you hope both musician and fan gets when we do get back to that environment?
I think just how rewarding it is, and how necessary and relevant it is to our community and to society as a whole, and just seeing how important this part of our lives is. And I know that there's so many people that in New York, one of the challenging things is I can go out I could before go out any night and hear a legend. And that's something that a lot of people have taken for granted. And I hope this changes that, where people really appreciate being able to go out and hear these incredible artists. And I think that's certainly for me as a performer, going to make it more important for me to always play the best as I possibly can at every time I can play out. And I think everyone's going to just appreciate it more. And hopefully that it doesn't go back to the normal, just lackadaisical attitude of going to hear music. I hope people actually really go out and embrace it more than ever. And I think it deserves that. All the arts really deserve that at this time. And I know a lot of people are relying on the arts to get through their days. And hopefully that does translate into attendance to live shows. And I do believe it will.
I agree. Absolutely. Hey, Brian, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today. I really appreciate it. Stay safe up there, and good luck with the new album.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you calling.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Brooklyn, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Brian for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.